Your golden retriever is friendly, golden and wonderful with children. That's the postcard. But underneath the coat is a working animal engineered in the Scottish Highlands for one specific job, and nearly every expensive mistake you make with this breed comes from forgetting it. The shaving, the ear infections, the vet run at 4 in the morning. 18 facts today. Number 7 is a trick with a puppy's ear you'll use for the rest of your life. Number 8 is quietly costing people money right now. And the middle of this list gets serious. I've kept dogs for 50 years, livestock guardians that slept out in the snow with the flock, herding dogs that had done a full morning's work before I sat down to breakfast. Rough dogs, honest dogs, none of them Goldens. And the breed people ask me about most is the one I never once used for work, which is how I ended up learning it properly. Because when you look at a golden retriever the way you'd look at a working animal, everything about it starts to make sense. The mouth, the coat, the tail, the trouble it gets into in your kitchen at 3 in the afternoon. Let's start at the beginning. Number 1. Every golden retriever alive traces back to one dog, not a type of dog, one animal with a name. In 1865, a Scottish businessman called Sir Dudley Marjoribanks, later Lord Tweedmouth, was walking in Brighton on the English coast when he saw a yellow, wavy-coated retriever. The dog was called Noose, and he bought him on the spot from a cobbler. Noose went north to the Tweedmouth estate at Gisashan in the hills above Glen Affric. In 1868, he was bred to a liver-colored tweed water spaniel named Belle, and that mating produced 4 yellow puppies: Crocus, Cowslip, Primrose, and Ada. Now other blood went into the line afterwards: Irish setter, black retrievers, another water spaniel. Anyone who tells you the breed came from 2 dogs and nothing else is skipping the interesting part. But every golden retriever alive today, the one on your sofa, the one in the park, the one in every advertisement you've ever seen, traces back through those 4 puppies to a dog bought on a seaside street 160 years ago. That's not a legend. Somebody wrote it down at the time, and we'll come back to who. Number 2. That soft mouth is engineering. The whole point of the breed was to bring shot waterfowl back to the gun undamaged. A dog that crushed the bird was worthless. So Tweedmouth selected generation after generation for a mouth that could close on a duck and carry it a quarter mile through cold water without leaving a mark. The old test the gamekeepers used was a raw hen's egg. A properly bred retriever could carry one across a field and set it down whole. So watch what happens in your own hallway. You come through the front door and the dog comes to meet you carrying a slipper or a sock or the television remote. Owners scold that. They think the dog is stealing. He's not stealing. That's 160 years of selective breeding standing in your hallway with nothing to carry, offering you the only thing he could find on the way to the door. Once you see it that way, you stop taking things off him and start handing him something. Keep an old rolled sock by the door. Let him carry it to you. Make a fuss of him. Take it back. The behavior stops being a problem and starts being a greeting, which is what it always was. Number 3. Buy an undercoat rake before you book a groomer. I'll give you the fix first and the reason second because this one costs people real money every summer. Underneath the long feathering, there are 2 entirely separate layers: coarse guard hairs on the outside that shed water and dirt, and a dense woolly undercoat beneath that traps a layer of still air against the skin. Owners see all that hair in July, feel sorry for the dog, and pay a groomer to shave it down. That's one of the worst things you can do to this breed. That trapped air insulates against heat exactly as it insulates against cold. Strip it off and you've removed the dog's own cooling system and his sun protection in the same appointment. In a lot of Goldens, the undercoat then comes back thick and patchy while the guard hairs never fully return, so you've also changed how he looks for good. A slicker brush and an undercoat rake, 10 minutes twice a week on a bench by the door, does more for a Golden than most of the appointments you'll ever pay for. The whole cost is about the price of one visit. Number 4. Why does he walk past the clean, dry path and step straight into the mud? Spread his toes apart and look at the skin between them. There's webbing there. Not full duck webbing, but enough to turn each paw into a paddle. Then look at the tail. A correct Golden Retriever tail is thick at the base, carried level with the back, heavy and otter-like rather than plumed and flagged. In the water, that tail is a rudder. The dog steers with it while the front paws drive. Add a water-shedding top coat and a chest built for cold highland lakes, and you're not looking at a family pet that happens to enjoy swimming. You're looking at a swimming animal that happens to live in your house, so he isn't being difficult when he chooses the muddiest water available. He's choosing the only thing in your neighborhood that resembles the job he was designed for. And I'd rather have a wet dog than a bored one, which is a point I'll come back to at number 11. Number 5. The story people told about this breed for 80 years was completely made up. Here's the version that ran in books, in magazines, in kennel club literature. Lord Tweedmouth watched a troop of Russian circus dogs perform in Brighton, was so taken with them that he bought 8 of them outright and bred the Golden Retriever from that stock. Complete nonsense, and people repeated it for the better part of a century. Tweedmouth had kept meticulous handwritten breeding ledgers from 1835 to 1890. Every mating, every litter, every dog in his own hand. Those ledgers sat in the family for over 50 years after his death, until his great-nephew, the 6th Earl of Ilchester, published them in 1952. No Russians anywhere in them. Just a Scotsman, a yellow retriever, a water spaniel, and 50 years of patient record-keeping in a country house. The truth was quieter than the myth and considerably more impressive. Because a circus story is luck. 50 years of ledgers is a man deliberately building an animal. Number 6. And people still travel to the house where he wrote them. Gisa-chan is gone now. Roofless gray stone walls standing in the grass, empty windows looking out over the glen, sheep grazing where the drawing room used to be. But every 5 years, owners bring their dogs there from all over the world. They walk them up through the wet grass to the ruin and photograph them on the ground where the breed began. In 2018, more than 300 Golden Retrievers stood together on that hillside for a single photograph. A family holiday, an aeroplane ticket, a hire car, all so a dog can stand on the spot where his ancestors were born. There's no other breed on earth with a birthplace this exact, and there's certainly no other breed whose owners make a pilgrimage to it. Now, that's the history done. The next one is the practical trick I promised you at the start, and it's the one you'll actually use. Number 7. The ear tells you what color the dog will be. Golden Retriever puppies are born far lighter than they finish. That cream-colored puppy in the litter box may end up deep red, and people choosing a puppy on coat color get this wrong constantly. So breeders have used a simple check for generations. Don't look at the back. Don't look at the head. Lift the ear and look at the very tip, at the fine feathering right at the edge. That color is the closest indicator anyone has found of the adult coat. The body will darken and lighten and change for 2 full years. The ear fringe stays honest. Now, I'll be straight with you. This is breeder practice rather than published science, and you'll find the odd dog that makes a liar out of it. But it's held up across a lot of litters and a lot of decades, and it costs you nothing to check. If you've got a particular shade in your heart when you go to see a litter, lift the ear, look at the fringe, and you're looking at the dog you'll have in 3 years' time. Almost nobody outside the breeding world knows that one, and it leads straight into the one that's costing people the most money. Number 8. There is no such thing as a white golden retriever. You'll see three broad types. The British Golden, blockier through the skull, heavier boned, often very pale cream. The American Golden, taller and leaner with a richer gold coat. The Canadian Golden, taller still with a thinner coat. Same breed. Three written standards, drawn up by three different kennel clubs on 2 continents. The British standard permits cream. The American standard doesn't, which is why a pale dog can win in England and be marked down in the United States with nothing about the dog itself having changed. And this is where you want to keep a hand on your wallet, because rare white golden retriever and English cream have become sales language. Puppies advertised at double or triple the price on the strength of a coat shade that sits comfortably inside the normal British standard. No kennel club anywhere in the world recognizes a white golden retriever. There's no such variety, no separate registry, no rarity. You're being charged a premium for a color, and in some cases for a color that's been deliberately selected at the expense of health testing. If a breeder leads with the coat instead of the hips, the elbows, the eyes, and the heart, walk away. That's not snobbery. That's arithmetic. Number 9. The body finishes years before the brain does. By around a year old, a golden looks essentially like an adult dog. Full height, proper coat coming through, deep chest. People see that and expect adult behavior to arrive with it. It doesn't. This breed matures mentally at roughly 3 years old, and some of them take longer. So you get 18 months to 2 years of a large, strong, fully grown animal with the impulse control of a small puppy. That's precisely the window in which most Goldens are surrendered to shelters, and I'd guess the people surrendering them have no idea how close they were. The chewed skirting board, the counter surfing, the dog that hears his name and keeps running. That isn't disobedience, and it isn't a failure of your training. It's an adolescent brain in an adult body, and it passes. If you can hold your patience through year 2, the dog that arrives in year 3 is the one you were promised. Number 10. Your Golden will not guard your house. I say that without any criticism of the breed, but I want you to hear it plainly, because people buy this dog expecting protection and then feel let down by it. My guardian dogs in the pastures were bred for suspicion, bred to put themselves between the flock and whatever came out of the tree line, and to make their own decisions about it at 2 in the morning without me anywhere near. The Golden Retriever was built for the opposite. It works a shooting line surrounded by unfamiliar men, unfamiliar dogs, and loud gunfire, and it has to stay calm and biddable through all of it. Wariness of strangers was actively bred out of this animal over a century and a half. So when a stranger opens your gate, your Golden will very likely bring him a shoe. That isn't a fault in your dog. That's your dog doing exactly what he was built to do, and if you want a guardian, you want a different breed entirely. Number 11. Give a Golden a job, or he'll choose one, and you won't like the choice. There was a stray Golden found wandering the Sierra Nevada mountains in the late 1980s. A man named Kevin DiCicco took him in and called him Buddy. That dog taught himself to knock a basketball through a hoop with his nose. He went on national television. He became the film Air Bud. A stray invented a career for himself because his brain wouldn't sit still, and in 1977, when the American Kennel Club created its Obedience Champion title, the first 3 dogs in history to earn it were all golden retrievers. Not one of the 3, all 3. That's the raw material lying on your rug. A dog engineered for hours of focused problem solving in bad weather. Leave him with nothing to solve, and he'll take up a hobby, and the hobby is usually your furniture, your garden, or barking at the letterbox. 20 minutes of nose work does more for behavior than an hour of aimless walking. Scatter his dinner in the grass instead of putting it in a bowl. Hide it behind furniture and send him to find it. Throw a retrieve up a slope so he has to work for it. You're not tiring the legs, you're tiring the brain, and the brain is the part that's causing you trouble. Number 12. This breed used to live to 16. Older health surveys of the breed report golden retrievers commonly reaching 16 and 17 years of age. The figure most owners are given today is 10 to 12. I'll be honest that the old number gets argued about, and the record keeping from that era wasn't what it is now. But even the cautious readings point the same direction, and it's one of the bleaker numbers in the dog world. Inside roughly 2 human generations, a popular healthy breed appears to have lost a substantial part of its life. Nobody has one clean explanation. Popularity brought enormous demand. Enormous demand brought careless breeding, and a narrow founding population never had much genetic room to begin with. Some of it may be better diagnosis, so we count what used to go unrecorded. What isn't in dispute is that the modern golden gets less time than the old ones did, which is why what you do at home every week matters more with this breed than with almost any other, and it's why the next 2 are the hard ones. Number 13. Roughly 6 in 10 golden retrievers die of cancer. Health surveys of the breed have put cancer mortality at around 60%, far above the average for dogs generally. The 2 that take the most of them are hemangiosarcoma, a cancer of the blood vessel lining that very often gives no warning at all, and lymphoma. That figure is so severe that in 2012, the Morris Animal Foundation launched the Golden Retriever Lifetime Study. They enrolled over 3,000 Goldens as young dogs and have followed them ever since, with annual samples and questionnaires year after year for the whole life of every dog in the cohort. It's the largest prospective health study ever run in veterinary medicine, and it exists because of this one breed. I'm not going to dress that up for you. But I'll tell you what, 50 years taught me about trouble in general. The dogs that came through it were the dogs whose owners had hands on them constantly and knew exactly what normal felt like. A lump found in week 1 is a completely different animal to a lump found in month 4. 8 minutes, once a month. Both hands, nose to tail, down the legs, under the belly, along the jaw and the throat, every lump, every joint. You're not diagnosing anything, you're building a map so you notice the day something changes. That's the entire system, and it costs you nothing. Number 14. When you neuter, this breed appears to matter. In 2013, a research team at the University of California, Davis published work looking specifically at golden retrievers, comparing dogs neutered early, dogs neutered later, and dogs left intact. The dogs neutered before a year-old showed notably higher rates of joint disorders, with hip dysplasia and cruciate ligament rupture among them. In the female dogs, the study also found raised rates of certain cancers in the neutered groups. The reasoning is straightforward enough. Those hormones are part of the signal that tells long bones when to stop growing and close the growth plates. Remove them early in a large, slow-maturing breed, and the plates stay open longer than they should, and the joints that result aren't the joints nature had in mind. Now, that's one study on one breed, and there are perfectly good reasons people choose to neuter early. Behavior, litters, rescue policy, insurance. This is a conversation to have with your own vet about your own dog, and I'm not going to tell you what to do with either, but most owners are never told there's a timing decision to be made at all. In this breed, there is, and you're allowed to ask about it. Number 15. The most expensive part of a golden retriever is the ears. That heavy feathered ear flap lies flat over the canal like a lid. Underneath it, warm and dark, with almost no airflow at all. Now add a dog that will swim in anything, and lake water sitting in that canal for hours afterwards. Ear infections are one of the most common repeat costs in this breed. And the word that matters is repeat, because owners treat the infection and never change what caused it, so it comes back 3 months later and they pay again. And again the spring after that. Lift the ear after every swim and every bath and dry inside the flap with a cloth. Look in once a week in decent light. Clean, pale pink skin and no smell means leave it alone entirely. Redness, dark waxy discharge, or a sweet sour smell means deal with it now, while it's still small and still cheap. I've never in 50 years paid to treat an advanced ear on a working dog, not because I'm clever, because I looked. That ear routine is one of about a dozen small systems that keep a dog well without a monthly bill attached to it. The food pot, the weekly hands-on check, the grooming bench by the door, the ear cloth. I've written all of them down, with the materials and what they currently cost, and it's linked in the description below this video. It won't replace your vet, and it isn't trying to. It's there to stop you paying somebody else for the 10 minutes you could do at your own kitchen table. Right. 3 left, and the next 2 are my favorites in the whole list. Number 16. A golden retriever ran meetings in the White House. In 1974, Gerald Ford's daughter Susan and the president's photographer arranged a golden retriever puppy as a surprise for him. Her name was Liberty, and she moved into the White House. She whelped a litter of 9 puppies there, which is a fair contribution on its own. But the detail I love is this: Ford and Liberty had an arrangement. When a meeting in the Oval Office had gone on long enough and the president wanted it finished, he'd give a quiet hand signal. Liberty would get up, wander over to the visitor to be greeted and made a fuss of, and the meeting would break up naturally with nobody's feelings hurt and nobody asked to leave. The most powerful man in the world used a golden retriever's friendliness as a diplomatic instrument. And it worked every time, because not one person in that room ever suspected the dog. Number 17. The last surviving search dog of September the 11th was a golden. Her name was Britannia. She was 2 years old, and New York was the first deployment of her career. She and her handler, Denise Corliss, worked the pile at Ground Zero for 10 days, searching broken steel and dust for anyone still alive. There's a detail from those days that has stayed with me since I first read it. The rescue workers on that site were exhausted and grieving beyond words, and Britannia would break off from searching, walk over to a firefighter sitting down with his head in his hands, and lean against him until he put a hand on her. Nobody trained her to do that. There's no command for it. She simply did it over and over for 10 days. She went on to work Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Rita, and then spent her retirement in a school helping children who were struggling with reading practice on a dog that wouldn't correct them. She died in 2016 at 16 years old, the last surviving search dog of that day. Firefighters lined both sides of the path to the veterinary clinic and saluted as she was carried in. Number 18. And this is the one I most want you to take away. You don't own a friendly dog. You own a working animal, descended from one yellow retriever bought on a Brighton street in 1865 and engineered across a century and a half for a cold Highland lake and a long day of purposeful work in the rain. The mouth that carries your slippers was built to carry birds. The coat you're tempted to shave was built for water. The tail is a rudder. The brain that finds trouble in your kitchen was built to solve problems for hours without supervision. And the temperament that won't guard your house is the exact same temperament that makes him safe with your grandchildren. Every one of those traits is a gift from a man who kept careful records in a house that's now four walls and no roof. Understand the working dog and the pet takes care of itself. Ignore it, and you'll spend the next decade paying other people to manage a problem you could have solved with a brush, a bench, and 10 minutes. So here's what I want from you, because after 50 years, I still want to know. Number 2 was the carrying. What's the single strangest thing your golden has ever brought you in his mouth? Not the ball, the ridiculous one. The thing you had to photograph before you took it off him. Put it in the comments right now, because I think between us, we'll find that every golden on earth is running the same ancient Highland instinct through some very odd household objects, and I'd like to see the proof. I'll be reading them.